The Noughties was an interesting decade for Scorsese. These films have a strange place in his filmography for me. I mean, they are all good movies. Sure, there could have been improvements. Gangs of New York is a film I wish Scorsese could do over, or at least release that legendary director's cut that we do know actually exists. I love Gangs of New York, but it isn't really a sweeping, majestic epic, an insight into the changing of times and the violent birth of modern America, whatever it thinks it is. Really, it's a pulpy B-movie, Looney Tunes for adults with an A-list cast, including Daniel Day-Lewis giving a stunning performance, which the entire film revolves around. But Scorsese had issues with producer Harvey Weinstein on set. He was forced into casting Cameron Diaz, who wasn't great, and the same goes for Leonardo DiCaprio, the first collaboration with Scorsese of many. It's a messy film, one that can't decide if it's about an epic love triangle or the history of the New York gangs and the riots of the Civil War draft. And that's partly because director and producer clashed over the vision of the film. But I like it. I like being in that world. It's not the most sophisticated Scorsese film, but I'm chuffed it exists. The Aviator was solid. It probably deserves a rewatch for me, seeing as though I had no idea who Hughes was when I first watched it. So this biopic of a film director became a biopic of an entrepreneur aviator, which became a study of a man with severe OCD. It kind of moved from there to there to there to there, and I imagine it's difficult to get a structured narrative out of Hughes' life. I never really liked The Departed. The script felt wonky to me. The movie felt ordinary. It felt like a standard Hollywood thriller with a bit of Scorsese flavour, and his Oscar win for the movie was definitely more of a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's a genre piece, as is Scorsese's next film Shutter Island. Now this is a film I really like. It's so entertaining. I loved the Mario Bava-esque colours of the film. The story was engaging and fun to rewatch. At the same time though, one could argue a lot of directors could have made this movie, like David Fincher. Did it really need the best director alive to helm what is ultimately a pulpy thriller? And I think this points to an issue I have with Scorsese's films in the 2000s. They're all good. It's probably Scorsese's most consistent decade. He was very much a top-tier Hollywood filmmaker, and his movies were making buck at the box office with Leonardo DiCaprio. But there's something about these pictures that just feel empty. It feels like Scorsese could have made films like The Departed and Shutter Island in his sleep. And sure, that's fine. Let the guy relax. He doesn't need to be making the stress-inducing films of the 70s which landed him in hospital. But it felt like another 80s decade for Scorsese. One where it feels like he's making all these polished big-budget studio films that all feel the same, just having a bit of fun while staying in the studio's good books. Of course, that's doing the movies a disservice, but there was always something about these movies, back when they first came out, that I felt, yeah, that was good, but he could do so much better. Maybe it's the casting of DiCaprio as the protagonist in 4 films in a row which give the movies a same kind of feel. But there's something about them that feels like Scorsese was on autopilot. But what are these movies about? What are they saying? What themes are they exploring? Not much, relative to Scorsese's earlier work. I've got a soft spot for Hugo, Scorsese's first children's movie, and his only 3D film. It was actually a disguised love letter to cinema and old Hollywood. It was charming, and Scorsese must have had fun making a movie about a filmmaker making movies. It made reference to Scorsese's passion for film preservation and restoration, and maybe it reawoken something in him, because his next picture, The Wolf of Wall Street, is a fine return to form, in the sense that here is a film that is about something, as would be Scorsese's next few movies. Initially, I was lukewarm to The Wolf of Wall Street, but it grew on me. It's a wild film, one that makes use of so many narrative techniques, like archive footage, advertisements, flashbacks, breaking the fourth wall, seeing what's in characters' heads, even cartoons. I read somewhere that Scorsese directed the film in anger, in the sense that he was critiquing a society that allowed a person like Jordan Belfort to exist and thrive in, and on top of that, as the ending implies, there's other wolves waiting in the wings who want to be just like him. I love that the movie works on both levels. A sex, drugs and rock and roll comedy, that's the textual level. Then there's the examination of capitalism, materialism, individualism, etc. That's the subtext. And Scorsese's subsequent movies might not be as quote unquote entertaining as his output in the 2000s, but they are better films in that they are more thought provoking, they have more to say. Scorsese put aside the debauchery and shamelessness of Wolf and finally made Silence, his religious film where the protagonist battles for his life but also battles with his own faith. Then there's The Irishman, an answer to the criticism that he glorifies the life of gangsters. Here's a film that does something a little different, that allows the gangsters to live their lives to their elderly years, where their bodies slow down, where they reflect on their lives, contemplate on what they've done, and look to the future and what lies beyond. Which brings us to Killers of the Flower Moon. At least it is about something, just like The Irishman was, just like Wolf was, just like Silence was. Something to say on the nature of genocide, of murder, of dehumanization.